welcome back to the Just Talking with Leo podcast. I believe this is episode number 5. It's been a little bit, but uh, I just been trying. I'm just gonna keep it. I've been lazy. So, also, I've been thinking about some ideas for this podcast and how to change things up a little bit. So, I know when I first started this podcast, I was so naive thinking I could easily do 2 podcast episodes a week. So I'm definitely changing it to 1, and think I have the dates. I'm going to publish these podcasts would be Friday at 8 a.m. So if you ever want to listen to this podcast again, if you're listening to this podcast, it'll be Friday 8 a.m. First things first, might as well talk about the last episode I did with Riley. Very good episode. He killed it. Apparently, I also killed it because his grandmother watched the podcast. Shout out Riley's grandma. She really the goat. Might have her on one of these episodes. That's probably one of my main goals. Very sweet, very sweet. And so a couple of his siblings also watched. That's very nice too. I want to thank Riley for all the support. And it is just going to be me for this episode, so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people are starting to leave now. I did want to get a couple of guests on here, a surprise guest that person I wasn't really friends with, but it kind of just fell out, I should say. So maybe in the future I will get this person that I thought of or get some more people. Also, Riley for sure I want him to be a recurring guest. So you should see him pretty soon, upcoming weeks. I should say you'll be seeing Riley again. So, right before I get into any topics or just start rambling about stupid shit, I just want to say please go and subscribe, like, share this podcast with all your friends. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, rate it 5 stars and do the exact same thing. I appreciate all the support I'm getting recently. More and more people that I know are watching the pod, appreciating the pod, loving the pod. And yeah, now time to go into what everyone's been waiting for. Every single podcast I've started off with a food debate, and it's not stopping now. And so I've only had boneless wings a couple times in my life. And every single time I've been severely disappointed. And a lot of people are saying that the boneless wing is the most superior wing to eat, that it's superior than just a regular old wing. And to me, that is preposterous. That gives me agony. I don't know how anyone could think that way. Boneless wings are just chicken nuggets that you're overpaying for. That somehow most of the time I feel like they're cheaper than bone-in wings, which I wouldn't suspect because you would think it would be harder to get boneless wings than bone-in. But that just shows you how cheap they are. That even if you remove something from a wing that is a kind of annoying and tedious off of that, it's still cheaper. And I'm pretty sure boneless wings aren't even really wings. They're just like a little cutlet of the chicken, a little piece of the chicken, I should say. And especially don't order boneless wings that aren't just regular. Honestly, any hot sauces that aren't just like buffalo and just hot sauces in general, they're not good. Maybe a garlic, but I've had a pretty bad experience with boneless garlic wings, and I'm never gonna do that again, I should say. By the way, Buffalo Wild Wings is hella expensive. It's not cheap at all, and you would think that wings would be very cheap. Little intermission. For a while, I've been wanting to get a new logo and getting a new theme for a while on this podcast, but I'm not really artistically challenged. I'm more autistically challenged, if I'm gonna be honest. So I've been thinking about going to Fiverr, or I really don't know. If you guys want to ever make a logo that isn't a penis or a vagina, I would very much appreciate it. Back onto the pod. It's very cold in Minnesota right now, and a lot of people are complaining about the cold weather, and I can't stand it. Cold weather is superior to hot weather. Hot weather is something that is just a drag, you know? You can be inside your house, and even if it's cold outside and you have absolutely no heat on, and it could still be pretty warm. But if you're in a if your house if out you could be in the cold season at your house and still be warm. But if it's in the warm season, you're going to be very warm at your house. I mean, it doesn't even matter. The thing about the cold compared to the hot is all you got to do if you're cold is put a blanket on. But if you're hot, you gotta take your clothes off. You gotta get a fan. You gotta constantly get hydrated. You really, besides frostbite, which is very serious, I should say, there's no really like negatives to being cold. If you can easily die, I would say more people, I would say, die from heat stroke and heat related illnesses than cold. And also, who doesn't like a good old snow day? Snow days are the best. I've had a couple this year, so that's really helped me do none of my schoolwork. But cold snow days are just the best. It doesn't get any better than a nice old snow day, you know what I mean? Andrew Tate has been in a lot hot water. He's done him and his brother Tristan have done a lot of I guess they're innocent until proven guilty, but it's not looking too good for those boys. The kids out there need a new role model. They need someone to look up to. They need someone to help them become a top G's. And I feel like I should be nominated for that role. I feel like I would serve tons of more information and affirmation than Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate possibly could. I can make anyone into a top G if they really tried hard enough. I've had some really good banana bread recently, and I think it's kind of dawned upon me that banana bread is the best baked good. I mean, it's kind of crazy how simple banana bread is, and it's by far the best when it's perfect. Nothing, if you compare the peak of the peak, you compare the best banana bread to the best cake or best whatever baked good. Banana bread just seems to always be on top no matter what. And I've heard a lot of disrespect on the banana bread name, and I cannot stand it. Banana bread is pretty healthy for a baked good, depending on what you put in it. It could be one of the more healthier baked goods compared to a cake, compared to a cupcake, compared to a brownie. Can't think of a pie. Compared to all those things, it tastes the best and is most definitely the most healthy for you. I could eat a banana bread every day and it would never I would never get tired of it. I love banana bread. I think banana bread should be way more popular. Banana bread is still like very, very underrated as a food. Bananas are underrated. A lot of people don't like bananas. Speaking of bananas, people don't like the banana flavored Laffy Taffy. And I think that's obviously that in like the purple one and just the regular red one are the best flavors of the Laffy Taffy. I don't People are saying that it's too artificial, the banana flavor of Laffy Taffy, that it is too much for people sometimes, and I just have to agree to disagree. Banana flavored anything. Bananas are might be the second best fruit behind pineapple, and I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, just bringing in multiple arguments, multiple things. I know I'm bringing a lot of shit up right now, but bananas in general are very underrated an overhated fruit. I hear all the time where people don't like bananas. They don't like how black it gets, or how mushy, or the black little mushy parts of banana. And people are just hating. If I had to give a number one fruit, I think obviously it'd be pineapple. I think pineapple also has the best juice, the most flavorful juice, maybe not be the most healthy, but it's the best tasting by far. Speaking of fruits, the cantaloupe is the worst. I've never had a good cantaloupe in my 17 years of existence, and I'm assuming for the rest of my life I'm never going to have a good cantaloupe. How come usually every fruit I can think of has a juice of some kind, even like a watermelon juice, even though that's in the similar family of a cantaloupe, I would say. You never hear anything about a cantaloupe juice. You know why? Because cantaloupes are absolutely dog shit. They may be one of the more healthier fruits, I'm pretty sure. If they aren't a healthy fruit, then there's no damn reason I should have been eating cantaloupe as much as I did. My grandma would always give me cantaloupe and I would just hate it. It'd be the worst part of the meal or of the snack. Cantaloupe is just the worst. I mean, cantaloupe, olives, come on. Those are just some of the worst things I've ever eaten on this planet. Cantaloupe and olives. I don't know. Olives don't even look human. They don't even look like you're supposed to eat them. They look like they belong in the ocean, like on the ocean floor. They're like a coral. They don't look like food you should eat. The only good part about the cantaloupe are the melon jokes for breast. Even just melons in general are terrible. I don't know why anyone eats melons. They don't make good smoothies. They don't taste good. I mean, they're probably not even the healthiest fruit. We should cancel melons and cantaloupes. I want to talk about Star Wars. I know a person that may be listening to this podcast right now as you're speaking. But I know a person that hasn't seen Star Wars, and I think Star Wars is the greatest franchise. It's better than Marvel, better than DC. It just is. I think the prequel trilogy gets hated on a lot, and I know if you're not a Star Wars head, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. But please watch Star Wars. Your life will be better. The Mandalorian is a great TV show, probably my top 5 favorite TV shows. I've talked about this in the last pod. Star Wars, the sequels are also very overhated. I would say rightfully so. The last two Star Wars movies haven't been the greatest movies of all time. They've most likely been some of the worst. But if you ever just dive into a series, and you'll never fall in love with the series faster than you will fall in love with Star Wars. Star Wars has some of the best character development, I should say, in anything ever made. You feel sorry, you cry, you laugh with these characters. And I don't want to spoil anything because I know a lot of people haven't seen Star Wars. It makes billions. That's why Disney owns it. That's why it's a pop culture phenomenon. That's why it's the GOAT of everything, of anything sci-fi. Star Wars better than Star Trek. Oh my god, Star Trek just pisses me off if I'm gonna be honest. Like, I want to know someone that has ever seen Star Trek. I don't know if I haven't talked to any person that has ever watched an episode or seen a movie of Star Trek. I don't know how Star Trek just if you can literally ask me when's the last Star Trek movie got made, and I would not know. I wouldn't be surprised if you said 1997, 2007, and 2017. I would not know what to pick out of those 3 years. Star Trek is always, I don't even care if it came up first. It's always been a second hand Star Wars, a third hand. It's not even, it should even be compared to Star Wars because it is so garbage. The special effects are just subpar at best, and it's just a very overrated sci-fi pop culture phenomenon. I don't even call it a phenomenon. It's just a stain on pop culture's reputation. I used to be an avid anime hater. I used to say that none of it was good, none of it was worth watching. But in the past year, I would say, or in the least the past 6 months, I've severely changed. All the anime I have seen so far. I mean, people consider this to be like the most basic ones, but I've watched all of Dragon Ball, and like I'm in like a couple hundred episodes into Naruto. But I want to apologize to all the people I've made fun of for an anime. I made fun of Riley for watching animes. But there's a difference between like a Dragon Ball, people consider like a normal anime, and the tentacle stuff that he watches. And yeah, if you're listening to this, Riley's grandma, he watches lots of stuff with tentacles, schoolgirls, lots of things related to animals, and I don't think that should be allowed upon your grandson. So make sure to keep him off that stuff for me, would you? Call me later. Pretty soon, I gotta upgrade my podcast setup, I should say. I really want to get more people on, but my podcast, I am on a PC right now using a recording software. So basically, I'm only going to be able to get people that want to come on my podcast. Basically, if they own a PC, that's really their only chance getting on this podcast. And hopefully soon, or in the near future, or at least sometime in the future, I can get a nice little setup in like a room or whatever that I can just record, invite people over, and just have a fun time, have multiple guests, have 3 to 4 guests on. That would be very nice, and I think you guys would like that as well. If you guys have any recommended guests, send that over to me. I would love to to see them, to talk to them. It's getting weird that more and more people at my school, or the people I hang out with, or the people I'm friends with outside of school and inside of the school, know about my podcast. They watch my podcast. Even like a teacher now knows about my podcast. And to me that's very weird, but gotta get all the views, gotta get everyone interested. And so it's kind of like a weird experience for me. Still getting used to it. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not no Joe Rogan or anything majorly successful. Hell, I'm not even making money off this podcast yet. But I am soon. The next probably couple episodes, I probably will start making money on this podcast. And as soon as I start making money on this podcast, I think that's when the production quality and everything will very much increase. My Minnesota Vikings are eliminated from the playoffs. It's a very sad sight to see. Even if you're not a sports fan, but you live in Minnesota like I do, you're still very sad. And you want to say multiple different swear words, different slurs to that organization, but you don't because normal human being. There's a lot of things that we need to fix with that team. A lot of people are blaming Kirk Cousins. I don't think besides the last play of the game, he really fucked up at the last play of the game, but throughout the whole game he played pretty good, but our defense is just terrible. I don't think a Minnesota team's ever really gonna be good enough. The Timberwolves suck. The Wild are probably our best bet to get some kind of trophy in Minnesota. I've been watching a lot of MMA recently, a lot of boxing recently, and I've come to the realization that MMA is just far more entertaining than boxing, and it's brings in the more money, I should say, in boxing. Boxing is slowly dying of slow, painful death compared to MMA. In fact, when you ask people, can you name a boxer? They're more likely to name Jake Paul, KSI than any regular trained professional boxer. But if you do the same with MMA, you'll hear names like Conor McGregor. You'll hear names like John Jones. A lot of these famous guys that are known for their sports compared to boxing. I also think that boxing has, similar to baseball, has many unwritten rules, which I just think I hate unwritten rules in any type of sports. I think it's dumb, and if it's an unwritten rule, it should just become a regular rule because then you allow people to twist the line on whether you can commit the rule breakage or not. And I think that's just very unentertaining. Another part I don't like about boxing is how slow and methodical it is compared to the MMA mix or even just UFC in general. I think that boxing will never be on top ever again. I mean, I can't say ever, but at least for the foreseeable future, I doubt boxing will stay on will be number 1 compared to the UFC. Boxing needs to change. It needs to add some things to make it stand out. The MMA, there's so many different types of moves you can perform, and there's still moves that they're still coming up with that you can perform compared to boxing. There's so many more things, like just the cage in general can play such a huge factor, or just like anything could play a huge factor. That's why every fight is different compared to boxing, where you kind of just win or lose. It's you never see a boxing match that's too special nowadays. Maybe back in the Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, those type of names. You're never gonna see an entertaining fight like that anymore. Also, what I feel like in boxing, there's not a lot of showmanship. There's not a lot of trash talk on the mic compared to UFC. I believe that if Conor McGregor or Chael Sonnen didn't talk as much as they did and they weren't allowed to talk as much as they did, that UFC would be in a whole different landscape right now. I believe those are my definitely 2 favorite fighters of all time. I think they're a lot of people's favorite fighters. I figured I'll probably stop with this rant right now because a lot of you have a good chunk of a female audience, and I doubt that you guys want to hear me talk about UFC and boxing. So on my last episode, a lot of people were divisive on me and Riley's points. If you haven't watched that episode, please watch it. It was a very entertaining episode. A lot of people agreed and disagreed on a lot of points that me and Riley made. For example, my s'more argument. A couple of people thought I was insane for not liking the s'more. Now, I've told them that I don't mind. The s'more tastes good. I never said the s'more tastes terrible. If you don't believe me, go back to the last episode. I only said that the s'more is overrated. Doesn't taste as good as it is hyped, and is very messy food to eat. And compared to a Rice Krispie or even a Pop Tart, it kind of just fails in every facet, I would say. Also, speaking of Pop Tarts, a lot of people clowned on Riley for not liking the fruit flavored Pop Tarts. And I'm glad so, because the fruit flavored Pop Tarts are staples. They're the guys that helped all the other Pop Tart flavors. And now I don't know if I said this last episode, but chocolate fudge is my favorite. It's very basic, I should say, or chocolate fudge or the Oreo are definitely my favorite ones. But it just doesn't compare. Nothing compares to a good old blueberry, good old strawberry, you know. Those are the OGs, and they'll continue to stay the best out of the best things. Also, a lot of people were surprised he would even dare to say that Taco Bell tastes better than Chipotle, which I don't know what in the hell he was thinking, even having the audacity to say that, but that just blows my mind. Ooh, I have a now. Hopefully the FBI isn't watching, but you never know. This podcast is very popular. Joe Rogan just left my message on open when I asked him to if I can come on his podcast, but we don't have to worry about that. Do you guys actually pay for streaming services? Because I don't. I have tons of websites, or I possibly have tons of websites that I watch a lot of these streaming things that appear on streaming platforms for possibly free, I should say. And now it's kind of weird to me that theoretically in this made up situation that someone would waste money on a streaming service when they can just take an extra 10 minutes on their day, look something up on the Goog, and find whatever you need and not pay a dollar. Maybe that's just a hustler's mentality. Maybe that's the hustler's university talking to me. But that's just very weird. So I've been hearing that people do not like milk, and I have milk with every meal. I know that's like what an 8-year-old does, but I've kind of just been trained that way my whole life. Just to every meal, you're supposed to have a glass of milk. And basically, every meal of the day, I do have a glass of milk, at least when I'm not at school, because I usually bring my own lunch to school or whatever. But usually on the weekends, I usually for every meal have a glass of milk. And milk is just the greatest. There's nothing better than regular old milk. Maybe an almond sweetened milk, but that only tastes good because it has a lot of sugar in it compared to regular milk. An unsweetened almond milk is just not good at all. Some of the worst tasting things I've ever had are almond. And please, if you're not drinking milk, just drink almond, and don't drink anything. Don't drink coconut milk. That's garbage. Don't drink like soy milk. That's no bueno either. Just either almond or regular milk. That's it. Don't have anything else, or just water, or just juice. Don't have anything else besides that, I would say. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I will be filming this podcast or recording this podcast once a week, but I am going to try to make them longer, more entertaining, trying to get more guests. So please share this with your friends. Make sure to subscribe, like, rate it 5 stars, whatever platform you on. You guys are big boys, big girls, big whatever you are, so you know what to do. Thank you. I always in my house have those ginormous like boxes filled with like chips and a bunch of all the different types of chips. And there's just always this one kind of chip that stays there no matter what. And I hate eating, but I eventually just have to so they don't get old and waste money on the food. Obviously, that's terrible. But the salt and vinegar Lay's chips are just not it. I don't know why they're in the bag. No one likes them. Also with the regular Fritos that aren't the twisty ones, the twisty Fritos are very good, but the regular Fritos and the regular salt and vinegar Lay's chips have to go. No one likes those chips. No one goes out of their way to get those chips. The salt and vinegar might be good on like a certain kind of sandwich, but I feel like it always just overpowers the food. It takes away from the food, and the Fritos are just like cardboard flavored disc, I should say. They aren't that very flavorful. If you're gonna get a chip bag, you gotta go for the regular Doritos or the Cool Ranch or the regular Cheetos or the Lay's sour cream and onion or the Lay's cheddar or even the original Ruffles, which I believe are a very underrated chip, especially the flaming hot Ruffles. Oh my, that might be the best chip ever made. Ruffles are very underrated, underappreciated. I would say the regular Ruffles are a big basic. They're not a very exciting chip. They're not a chip that's gonna go out there and drop you 30 every night, but they're a chip that gets the job done, that wins that game, that always comes in clutch, I should say. Especially cheddar ruffles or sour cream and onion ruffles. Oh my. Flavor Town with my Guy Fieri. Speaking of Guy Fieri, isn't that guy just like the coolest guy? He has like one of the best jobs in the world where he makes hundreds of millions of dollars by going to restaurants, eating for free, and telling you if the food is good or not. And he drives a sick ass car, a sick ass red Mustang, I believe. I really don't remember his car and I don't care to look it up. But he's just such a cool guy, such a nice guy. He'd never been like in a scandal. I never heard someone say anything bad about Guy Fieri. He's just a lovable goofball, you know? And for the longest time, when I was little, I thought Guy Fieri was the guy that sang All Star, but I was wrong. So I'm kind of sad that he isn't in Smash Mouth, but he's still in my heart forever. We love you, Guy Fieri. There's a lot of competition on what's the best fast food burger out there. Five Guys comes up often. In-N-Out comes up often. Shake Shack comes up often. Even like a Wendy's or a McDonald's, even a Burger King, they come up often. But nothing beats In-N-Out in my mind. Now, I would say that Five Guys fries are significantly better. I would say the burger also may be better. Maybe a Five Guys burger is better than an In-N-Out. Maybe if you're willing to pay that much, it is. But I think price to quality ratio, nothing beats In-N-Out. And I'm from Minnesota. I've only had In-N-Out a handful of times in my life. And every single time I've had it, it's been amazing. The double stack, animal style fries. They're just the best food. But there was one thing that I didn't try Whataburger. And I'm mad at myself for that because I've heard Whataburger is very good. But also actually Whataburger is very controversial. A lot of people like Whataburger, a lot of people don't like Whataburger. They say it's garbage. So I wanna taste test that. I wanna be the new Guy Fieri. The thing about In-N-Out that is different from a Shake Shack, a Five Guys, is the price. It's almost McDonald's price. And I know it's McDonald's is obviously cheaper, but it is very close to a McDonald's price for double, triple the quality of a McDonald's burger or McDonald's whatever. The only bad thing at In-N-Out is the fries and maybe a shake. But even then, if you get those fries animal style, they taste very good. Now, could I ever eat an In-N-Out fry without any ketchup, without any cheese, without any onions? Probably not. They're not that great. Whenever I had animal style fries and there were fries that were completely uncovered in the sauce, in the cheese, in the onions, whatever, I couldn't eat them. They're like cardboard like shoelaces. I just couldn't get myself to eat them. I seriously couldn't. But once they're covered up and all that stuff, I could eat a lot of those fries. Another thing about Burger King is is it's just not it, you know? When I was younger, I thought I liked Burger King. And every time I've had Burger King, I've hadn't had Burger King in like 2 years, I just say. When I had recently, or not recently, when I had that Burger King burger those few years ago, it kind of was a letdown, just like the King is a letdown. It's kind of weird that the Burger King has the crown. Clown really is the head of everything. It's kind of funny to me, you know, the clown is better than the king. You would never expect that in real life. But I feel recording these solo podcasts, they're much more personal. They're much more of a deep dive in my thoughts. And I know that some people are gonna like that, and some people are just here for laughs and just have a good time. And so I'm gonna try to provide both of that for you guys. I'm gonna try to provide as many solo episodes and many guest episodes as I possibly can do every week. And I just want to get the best entertainment out there. I want to get everyone enjoying the content. And so that's my plan from now on. I'm going to try to deliver the best content I possibly can and just to show you guys the love. That's what I got to do. I got to maybe start that Twitter over again. I know last time that Twitter page kind of crashed and burned, you know, like a 9/11. I can make a 9/11 joke right there, but I'm not. Instead of doing the Twitter page like I did last time, I might start doing some Spotify Twitter pages because most, like I would say 90% of my viewers are on Spotify compared to YouTube. YouTube, gotta get your game up. Come on, get more people on that YouTube side, please. Algorithm, please help me out. But I might be start doing more polls on the Spotify since that's more reachable to people compared to the Twitter having to log in. A lot of people don't even have Twitter accounts. Hell, for this podcast, I didn't even have a Twitter account. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna start doing that more often. I'm gonna start doing more polls, asking you guys questions about the pod and what's going on. And you guys are always welcome to ask me opinions about my things and if or whatever. Feel free. Be glad to listen. It's getting to the end of the podcast, end of the episode, and I know a lot of people are either excited or not excited. But I got one final topic I want to talk about before I let you guys go. Feel like Hollywood is just slowly dying. I haven't seen a lot of movies that are like people consider to be works of art. I would say the last very, very good movie I've seen is probably that wasn't like made in the past that was new at the time was probably the Batman. And a lot of people are very argumentative about that movie, but I still think it's one of the best movies I've made. But I feel like there hasn't been that much content. I mean, there was Avatar 2, which I'm not really interested in the whole Avatar movies, so that kind of is a no for me. And then the Black Panther, I should definitely see that. I still haven't seen it. I feel like Marvel is just putting out too much things for me. I feel like around that Endgame time, there was nothing better. And now it's just slowly becoming worse and worse and worse. And I hope Marvel their shit together. But also with TV shows, the last very good TV show that I watched that was new at the time might have been like The Mandalorian, like season 2, or I'm trying to think. Hollywood is just not the same, and we want some more entertaining stuff. That's why podcasts are on the rise. People want to get entertained for an hour, 2 hours, and it's just Hollywood is slowly dying. And I'm here for it because I want everyone to be watching my podcast. I want to be good at what I do. I want to become number one. I really just want to have a good time. And that's what this podcast is all about. I figure it's about time we wrap things up. It was a kind of a shorter episode, not really. I mean, for me, this was like an hour long, but it's going to be trimmed down a lot because I edit. I do take pauses. I make sure to collect my thoughts. I don't just talk for 20 minutes straight without nonstop. I don't think I could. My brain is not that fast. A lot of people know that my brain isn't that fast. But yeah, that was a good episode. Hopefully next week I'll have another guest besides Riley, or even maybe Riley, I don't know. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. One last time, please support this podcast. Rate it 5 stars on Spotify. Subscribe, like. You guys know what to do. I think that's all I gotta say. Peace.